So is everybody seeing the screen?
No
Yes.
screen.
Yes.
Yes, 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 I am.
Yes?
All
Great,
right, right.
great.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
no
yes.
screen.
Yes. Very good.
Great. Okay, good.
This
All right,
tomorrow.
so I'm just here this evening to share with you a situational update and just give a glimpse or a prips at the vaccination program that we are going to be rolling out shortly in regard to COVID-19. So as you're all aware, the country continues to battle with this COVID-19 pandemic, and true to form, St. Mary, as the other parishes, has seen our fair share of the cases. The greatest proportion of our cases was noticed in the month of January, and this we expected that going into Yuletide and the New Year celebrations. And we know that a lot of persons are throwing caution to the wind, and so we have a lot of mopping up to do as it regards the cases and the, should I say, mortality leading from persons, disregard for the protocols. We have noticed that our positivity rate, and that just means the number of positives that we receive per day as a proportion of the total number of results that we get back every day. And as you can see from my screen here, February has seen the greatest peaks. February the 2nd and followed by February, actually the 30th. As we try to stem the tide, we understand that it is not going to be easy. And if you look at our weekly moving average, when we compare the week of January the 31st to February 6th, compared to February 7th to February 13th, our weekly positivity rate is more than 2 times what it was in the previous week. And so we can see that things are moving as we continue to try to stem what is going on. It's quite difficult when persons are not adhering. We continue to emphasize sanitizing, masking up, and maintenance of the 6 feet distance. And we have really put a lot in. We have been into communities, we do walk and talks, we're at businesses. Currently, we are training up our COVID-19 ambassadors that we call the SMS ambassadors, so that sanitize, mask up, and social distancing. But our inputs have far outweighed our returns. So the number of cases and deaths are very, very disappointing compared to the amount of efforts that we are putting in. And so the country as a whole, as with other nations across the globe, decided that we needed another option. And so that option became vaccination, because persons were really not adhering. Oh, somebody's asking to see my face. I don't, how do I do that?
When you
so
are
the option became
when you are finished.
Start my video. I didn't hear you.
When you are finished, it's not.
Okay, when I'm finished.
Yeah.
All right, no problem. So the option became vaccination, and why was this? Because one, we wanted to return to normality at the earliest possible time. So normality in regards to our economics, our educational system, and just about socialization. We have seen an upturn in the number of persons who are depressed and suicidal, and thankfully we have not seen that being panned out in St. Mary itself. But in the globe, you can realize that persons are becoming really depressed, marriages are breaking apart, families are being torn apart. Because let's face it, this has been this time in history that persons are locked together in close quarters for prolonged periods. So if you never really loved your wife, this is a really trying time. If you never really loved your husband, it's a test of everything. They wanted also to ensure that our frontline workers and the health workforce was as normal as possible. And also we needed to protect our most vulnerable, and that was our elderly population. Now, for the rollout of the vaccine, the plan is to do it in 3 phases, and phase 1 does include our frontline workers, that's our police, JDF, healthcare workers, and the JFB, as well as our elderly population. The other 2 phases will spread the vaccine across the entire population, right? So Jamaica became a part of what we call a COVAX facility, and that was established in April 2020. And what that does is actually gives us more speaking power in terms of monies. So these monies were co-opted with different entities of the PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. And so all of these small countries were able to put monies into a bidding pool. So our revolving fund was used as our bargaining power to ensure that we would be able to access vaccines at the earliest possible time when they became available. As you're all aware, there are different types of vaccines, there are different technologies that are out there. And currently, what is being purported in the media and what we are going to get in Jamaica come this month is actually what we call, it's actually a viral vector. And I'm going to go a little bit into that for you. It has actually passed it is in phase 3 of clinical trials. And so it's very advanced and something that's safe. That is why they're bringing it onto the island. We know that we have had a long history of vaccinations, and we know our government, the health ministry, will not take something into the country that they think are going to be detrimental to our population, given what we're already facing. And so the vaccine of choice that we're getting is the AstraZeneca vaccine. As I alluded, we have had a strong and robust history of vaccinations. I know not many people have seen anyone looking like these children in Jamaica recently, or this gentleman that lives inside an iron lung. Now, what has caused this is actually polio. And we know that for some years now, Jamaica has eradicated that condition from our shores. And so we know that vaccination has its place, and it's actually been a wonderful tool in the armory of the health services. So how does this vaccine work, AstraZeneca? Now, what actually they have done is that the vaccine is made up of a double-stranded DNA molecule that assists in coating for spike proteins from the COVID-19 virus. So this is actually embedded in a coat of an adenovirus. So this is what it actually looks like. So that's the DNA inside the adenovirus. This is what the spike proteins on the coronavirus would look like. And this is what is actually going to be manufactured by our cells when we're vaccinated. So once this vaccine enters the body, what actually happens is that the adenovirus spike proteins lay hold on our cells and get inside the body and release this double-stranded DNA molecule inside our nucleus. And what our nucleus does is produces a messenger RNA that tells the body that you need to make these spike proteins, right? Now, once the spike proteins are made, they actually migrate to the surface of these cells and they stick onto the tips. And there are also fragments on the surface that go out on the surface of our cells. Now, once they're there, what is the immune system going to do? So helper T cells are going to bind onto these on the surface of what we call antigen presenting cells. And our other cell, or fighter cell, or B cells also attach. And once there's a potentiating effect, right, and antibodies are going to be generated, once these antibodies are generated, they actually destroy these vaccinated cells and they serve as a memory. So whenever any COVID-19 viral particles may enter the body, there's an upregulation of the immune system to say, see, these are some particles that has been here already and they were not good particles, destroy. That is how our armory works. Now, who is this vaccine for? It's actually for persons 18 years old and above, including our elderly, because it's been shown to be safe in that population. So all the persons who are in our nursing homes, persons who visit our clinics with comorbid illnesses and are over 65, they too are going to be vaccinated, are going to be offered vaccination. Immunocompromised patients, it is safe in them as well, especially if the benefits outweigh the risk. And even for pregnant women, they are purporting that the discussions can be had with their healthcare provider. I'm sorry, this is not supposed to be previously, it's actually pregnant women, so it's just a replication or duplication of the words. Now, and also, as I already said, we're vaccinating the frontline workers as well. Now, the parish as a whole has been tasked with the development of a program plan as to how this is going to happen. And as you can see, our program here is divided into 6 basic pillars. And those include governance, supply chain logistics, vaccination process and workforce, surveillance, monitoring and reporting, policy and resources, as well as health education and risk communication, so people can understand what the vaccine is all about. Now, the governance structure is made up of representatives from both our primary care, that's the health department, as well as secondary care, the hospital level. So it does include the medical officer of health that was introduced just now as your chief medical officer, or senior public health nurses and other immunization officers, or senior medical officer from the hospital, the director of nursing services, as well as administrative support to include the parish manager. Now, the vaccine itself, vaccination process itself is discussed at our morning emergency operations center meeting for the health services that we host every morning at 8:30, right? Now, in regards to what is going to happen, we have actually gone ahead and we have identified 6 sites from which vaccinations will take place. And those include both hospitals at Port Maria and the Notre Bay Hospital, and our type 3 healthcare facilities include the Notre Bay Health Center, Port Maria Health Center, Highgate Health Center, and the Gale Health Center. The plans are also to go within the nursing homes and to do vaccination. We actually had a training with nursing homes last week where this was introduced. And so we're awaiting their response to us in giving us that go ahead or a date to come in, because we still need to get that permission from the relatives to come in and do vaccination for them, as well as vaccination of persons at correctional facilities. That's our lockups, right? Now, we have several vaccination officers on board, and these are your public health nurses. You're used to them. They're midwives, clinicians themselves. So we will have a host, and that does include just about 43 officers to be spread across the parish, and also to include our mobile teams. And by mobile, I mean the teams that will be moving out to do vaccinations on spot at different entities. We are aware that as we are in a time of the COVID-19 pandemic, we also have to be very, very careful about what we are doing. And so we will ensure that the protocols are maintained. And for this, wherever we go, we anticipate and we ask for at least 2 rooms, one to vaccinate in and one where we can monitor clients, right? Protocols of mask wearing and hand sanitizing will be maintained. And in our monitoring suite, what that actually means is that once persons are vaccinated, they're going to be held for just about 15 to 30 minutes in a space, observed for any signs and symptoms of anaphylaxis, that means an adverse event, or any other thing that may occur. Because in Jamaica, we're also aware that persons are afraid of needles, and this is something new. And so we have to ensure we monitor them. And this is not new. For every single vaccine, this is a protocol that we use. Once you're vaccinated, you're to be held so that we can observe you. We do this in a equipped facility so we can respond accordingly. So all seats will also be 6 feet apart. And once that is done, persons are allowed to leave. The vaccines are it's a 2-dose vaccine. They're just about 8 to 12 weeks apart. They'll be given. This is not showing us the roles and responsibilities of our different officers who will be on the ground on the day of the vaccine. But how can you help? We know that this body is quite influential. And so I'm very pleased and happy when the primary healthcare team is invited to be a part of the initiative. But we want you to help us encourage persons to maintain the protocols, to wear their mask, to maintain their 6 feet distancing, and to maintain the sanitizing of their space as well as their hands. Those are our non-pharmacological methods, and we cannot do away with any of them. Even with vaccination, it's not a magic bullet. It is something that is aimed to decrease the morbidity and mortality associated with COVID-19. So we look forward to your help. We look forward to you helping us to push the thrust in regard to maintaining protocols. And when the vaccine is here, to also be cooperative with us in ensuring that if you have elderly family members, you allow us to vaccinate them. as well as if you yourself are a frontline worker, that you get vaccinated, right? So that is what I want to share with you this evening. I know I don't have 15 minutes, so I hope I did not go over that. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Henry, for that presentation. It was very informative, I can say. However, I am quite sure that some of the justices out there might have some questions for you. Based on the time, I can allow for 3 questions, after which we'll have to move on. I'm not sure if Dr. Henry, if you could stay around till after the meeting, if possible, in case there are other questions that persons might have. If you could answer it after.
What I could do, that's not a problem. What I could do, I'd have to sign in from my mobile phone and be on my way, because I'm actually not at my home as yet, but I can sign in from my mobile phone and take questions that way.
Okay, that would be appreciated.
You're welcome.
Okay, so any questions for Dr. Henry, or will we just wait until after the meeting, after our other presenters?
Can I ask a quick question, please? Reverend Hutchinson.
Certainly, sir.
Okay, Dr. Henry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening. I represent the United, yeah, man. I represent the United Friends of Highgate, and we're concerned about Highgate because many persons are still not wearing the mask. Is it possible that we could arrange a walkthrough and distribute masks to the people in Highgate, sensitize them about the vaccination, and from there we move on?
Yes, we can. What we actually do now, we may not have a great showing sometimes. We actually have our community health aides in different high-risk communities within Highgate itself, and they do give information and encourage mask wearing. But I think that's a great and wonderful initiative, Father Hutchinson. We can liaise with that, so we can work with the Friends of Highgate to get into the community and also distribute masks. Not a problem. We welcome those initiatives.
All right. What are the protocols? What do we do? The police would have to be involved. I know the health department would have to be involved.
So once you let us know,
we'll supply the mask.
Yes. Yes. Great.
Okay.
What we will do is, once we have a date pinned down and we're planning for same, what we'd actually do is get all the other stakeholders on board. And so, you know, we can run, ensure that we are safe. And what we have, for want of a better word, flash mobs. So we're in the streets, so the police stop the traffic for us, and we play the music and we sing about it. So, yes.
Once we have identified the date, then I'll get in touch with you.
We would welcome.
Right. Once we identify the date, I'll get in touch with you and from the police and from them. Thank you very much. Very nice. Good.
You are very welcome, and thank you for that too, Father Hutchinson.
Okay, and just a quick one here from Justice Kenroy Vassell. He's asking, individuals who are tested positive for the virus and recovered, can they still take the vaccine?
Yes, actually they do. It is advised. But what we normally advocate is that they hold off for a period of just about 6 months and then they get 1 shot instead of the 2 doses, they get 1 dose, because the antibodies would already be on board. So this is just to prime the immune system. So it upregulates and is able, because as you're aware, there has been inklings of persons being reinfected. So yes, vaccinations are good for those who have been infected previously, but 1 dose.
I would,
thank you.
I have a question, Justice Lecky. Dr. Henry, I noticed that I'm Judeo Sullivan, yes. I noticed that some of them, I saw a medical team one morning. I live in the St.Mary Country Club, Prospect area.
Yes.
And I know one morning I was getting ready for work and I saw some medical, I don't know if it's in the morning or somewhere late morning, but they were here in the club during the day. Most people are out for work.
Okay.
I was wondering if there's any chance of them maybe coming back on a Saturday or a Sunday. I don't know if that's possible, where they could catch most of the population here.
Well, if it is that you can organize that for us, because we know that we come in for particular reasons when you see us. But if you can organize a time for us to come in, we will try to accommodate that, because what we want is for people to get the message that COVID-19 is around and it's still wreaking havoc on the population, and whatever assistance or help we can get, we welcome it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Justices. And just remember, any other questions, Dr. Henry will oblige us with time after we're finished with our other presenters. So please hold the questions then. Okay, we'll move right on now to the Custos corner with Custos Errol Johnson for his updates. After that, we'll have a short question and answer session. Note, please, a question and answer session. All right, over to you, Custos Johnson.
Thank you very much, Justice of the Peace Lecky. I thank Dr. Henry for finding the time to join us. I also thank Superintendent Bobette Simpson and her assistant Derek Thompson. I know that Superintendent Bobette has put out an extra effort to be here tonight with us, and I'm very appreciative of that. In fact, likewise, Dr. Tamara, who is always very busy and actively trying to secure St.Mary. And from time to time, she would say to me that they are trying, but the people are so indisciplined in their behavior in terms of following the protocols. And we're doing quite well. We're managing in single figures while others were going sky high. We were there, but today, what is Jamaican saying is that the chicken they have come home to roost. We hit a high of 22. So I am asking Justice of the Peace to try to tell your neighbor. If you tell one, it means that you tell 10, because that one will also have 10 friends that they can circulate the information. Please, it says if you follow the tracking, most of the countries are going down. The last statistics I saw was that there has been a drop of something about 42%. I don't know if it's fake news or what, but we're getting the feedback that there's a drop. But Jamaica is going up, and it's because of our indiscipline. In fact, today, driving through Port Maria, somebody shouted to me, but I was driving, so I couldn't turn my head. Sir, look at the police, them don't have any mask. So I don't know if it's true or what, because I couldn't turn around to look, and next thing I'll be prosecuted for careless and dangerous driving. But these are things that and I must commend what I saw in Port Maria. Very few people were out of mask. And I think once the numbers keep frightening us, we'll begin to understand that the party is still on and the sound system is COVID-19. And it's booming and blasting, but we must wear masks. Anyhow, I hope that you all will remain safe healthy. And if you remain healthy, you would be happy. There are some questions that was sent to me. They were sent to me, and I would like to answer them. And I'll answer them in the order in which I got them. And they are being posted on the screen. What authority do we have at the police stations? As far as I know, and as far as I have researched, we have no authority there. It's a police authority, except when you are invited by the station commander, or you are detailed, or you are sent by the Custos to carry out jail inspection. So don't believe that they just show you respect when you go in and shout that I am a justice of the peace and I need. You can only go there and inspect the station under the instructions of the Custos of the parish. And I haven't seen anything to the contrary. Concerned with the number of events to include grave digging, etc. in Highgate, Clonmel, and Outer Bay, what is being done in the parish to address this issue, I think one of the best way to help with that is to call the police hotline, which is a confidential number. I think it's 119. Supt will tell us later on. And call the police hotline, because you have to bear in mind also that the police, with their limited resources, have to still be patrolling and looking out for crimes, criminality, other than COVID violators. So please, if you know of a grave digging that is having a large crowd of 100 or 200, please let the police know. And bear in mind that the limit at the moment is 10, whether inside or outside. Please let the police, call the police, there's confidential lines. I am concerned about the quality of the effect of police overseeing COVID rules as it relates to parties, especially at nights when citizens want to sleep. I grew up in a community near Preston Hill. And in all my days up there, and even now, the only time police visit that place is when they're passing by. So if they have no reason, if the area is not a crime hotspot, the regular patrolling would not be seen. And if the parties are being held up in Preston Hill or up in Jackson or over in Brennard or what have you, the police would not know unless somebody call them and say, I want to sleep and there's a party going on. Please help us and help the police so that we can make our country safe and comfortable and a place to live and work in peace. Question number 4. We are now justice of the peace for the entire country instead of parish. However, neither the seasonal ID, which were newly done, reflects the changes as mentioned in the training manual. Are there any updates in regard? This is the process. They are in the process of doing so, and as soon as that is about to happen, we'll let you know. As far as I know, there is no seals at the moment that bears the authority of Jamaica. Still St.Mary for now. We are hoping that with the advent of NIDS will have embedded in it that they are a justice of the peace. And I just want to remind you of something. As once you are appointed a justice of the peace, you remain justice of the peace forever. But you might not be able to do the duties of a justice of the peace, which is different, because If you're not able to see, if you're sick and in bed, you cannot use a seal. And we will recover the seal, but you still have your commission. The only way you lose a commission if you commit a crime and the due process is done. Question number 5. The annual report is as it is, complete, the questions as they are asked, and the information given as they are asked for. And what are significance? It helps us to see who are still active, who are still in the country, and who are still competent to act. It also helps us to organize training for justices of the peace. What are the implications? If you don't fill it out and it goes for 3 years, the Ministry of Justice can direct that your commission be, after due process, you be decommissioned, but due process as per the rules and regulations will have to be done. What is the significance of the JPID card, and where and how should it be used? To identify yourself when necessary. To identify yourself when necessary. Not to when the police stop you for a legitimate road check. That you don't flash it out and tell them that I'm a justice of peace. Even anybody can be checked by the police. Have a right, if there is reasonable doubt, to check all motor vehicles on the road to look out for any anything that may be unlawful. Right? There are many times this could happen. I personally love when the police check me, because it shows that I could be driving and I'm driving under duress. And because I'm Custos, they let me go through when I really want them to stop me. When they stop you, they are courteous and they will just say to you what they're doing, and you wish them well, you cooperate and allow them to move on. I haven't been at the airport and I've seen the former Governor General coming through the airport, and he goes through immigration like all of us, except that he's guided by his security detail. What's the process to deal with seals that are malfunctioning, and why does it take so long a time to repair or replace? If your seals are malfunctioning, please take them to the office and we will deal with it. I cannot say why it takes so long to repair or replace. That's a question that cannot be answered. That is how fast the manufacturers of the seal can work to replace them. That's a very good question. I was asked about it one time and see if I can get the answer. If it's stolen or it's lost or something happened and you can't find it, please report it to the police, and you'll have to get a report from the police that you have done so. So 7A. I would like to know more about the role of a JP in observing, assisting in rights and will. In this, you have to be very careful. If you are writing the will for the person, listen to what the person is telling you. Write it on a blank sheet of paper. When they write it, let them read it. If they can't read it to them and make them understand it. When they correct it and everything, then you write it out, you read it again. But it's very important that you have a second person there when you are doing this. Never be very careful. Be very careful how you influence or you give advice as to the distribution of the asset. If you are helping to write the will or what have you, or you're observing it, give no assistance in the distribution of property. What is the latest time that JP can deal with bail bond? I think I'll ask Superintendent Bobette to answer that. It is as how, when and when you can get bail. I'm not, I forget to research that one. Is there anything that JPs can do in keeping the peace in a community with stray animals? The important thing here now is keeping the peace in a community with stray animals. I don't know what you're referring to, but if you're referring to dogs and goats and cows and what have you, please talk to the owner of these animals in a very calm manner and show them, especially dogs, you can remind them about the law that was recently passed. And please, that's why you are called justices of the peace, because you have to maintain peace. So from time to time, people complain to you. Please be calm and try to maintain peace at all times. I would like some clarification as relates to signing a driver's license application outside of the parish you are commissioned. Please do not sign any driver's license for anybody outside of the parish. The person must be resident in your parish and you sign that driver's license. Be careful how you write recommendations also for people outside the parish, because there have been some, some things that have been happening. And, the thing is that somebody might move to St.Mary, live in your community for 2-3 years, undercover, and I use the term undercover very, not loosely, but very calm with a family. And then after 3 years, they see you. You have seen them there and they're a very nice and helpful person. And then they ask you for a recommendation and you write such a beautiful recommendation that they go now to St. Anne and they get a job. And when some vetting is done, they find that this fellow is wanted in Manchester because he physically abused his girlfriend over there, and they have been looking for him for the past 3-4 years. So be very careful, even though you are justice of the peace for Jamaica, be careful how you go about signing passport forms, signing driver's license, giving recommendations, etc. There's no 14, there's a 15. Are there any plans in place for lay magistrate training? Well, a circular went out asking if you're interested, and names were submitted, and this has been submitted to the Justice Training Institute, and we are hoping that it will be by April thereabout. I miss 13. 13 is asking, what's the relationship among the Lay Magistrate Association and JPs? The Lay Magistrate Association is a legitimate association, and it represents lay magistrates, as the name suggests. All JPs are eligible to join, but they have the right not to join or to join. In fact, all JPs have the right to join any association if they so desire. The JP Association of St.Mary has been analyzed, have been discussed, and it has been weighed out. And it is an association of all JPs of the Jamaica. and in particular, in St. Mary, they are members of the St. Mary JP Association. So once you are commissioned, or whenever you are commissioned, or whenever you will be commissioned, you shall, and I use the word strongly, you shall become a member of the JP Association of St. Mary. And as directed by the Governor General and the Ministry of Justice, all JPs are now under that umbrella. And there is nothing stopping Lay Magistrate Association, as far as I'm concerned, we call it Mediators Association, but all JPs. And this has been in the making in St. Mary for a long time, because over the last 2-3 years, we have been working on dividing up in the parish into police, dividing up the parish according to police stations. So we'd have we'd have Another Bay, Castleton, Islington, Highgate, Richmond, Gale, Prospect, Rockabessa, and Port Maria. I think those are it. So all JPs in that locality, in that geographical area, will become a part of that group. This is well, you know, I have experience with military training and educational training, and just like how we divide up our school into classes according to their age and size, we divide up the JPs into groups according to where they live. For now, because we have just rolled it out in St. Mary, and there's no clear cut way forward, except we know where we are going, I have requested of a JP, each of these areas, to form a central committee. We have had one meeting already, and we are going to have a second meeting where we are going to look at the way forward. And these leaders in your community, in your district area, should be meeting with you and discussing the way forward as we discussed before. So within the year, things will roll out, and certain things that we'll do as an association will become more visible. So basically, that is what it is. And this, we are looking forward that it will help us to communicate with our JPs, and so that information will be rolled out accordingly and on time. Basically, those are the things. We are still working on some training for our JPs. At the moment, we are processing applications for new JPs, and we are hoping by June, training will be implemented, and say by early September, we'll have a new set of JPs being commissioned. So basically, those are the questions that I've answered. And sorry, I don't know if anybody has any question to ask me right now.
Okay, thank you, Custos Johnson.
Yes, I would like to ask a question.
So we have a question from Justice Taylor.
Yes, thank you. Custos, how far along are we in getting our annual report online?
I am still waiting on the Ministry of Justice. They are the ones that will implement that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no more questions. We'll move on now and have another sponsorship ads from the Catalyst Bookstore and Northgate High School.
Please be too close. I can't need that take. I can tell you. Animal cup.
Do you have children 10 to 14 years old? Are you looking for an online school option that offers live video interaction between students and teacher? Are you looking for a safe environment to help build character in your child? Then contact us at Northgate High School. We engage a values-based approach to education while delivering academic and life skills training. Parents of homeschooled children and those with children who are temporarily without a school option for this term, contact us. We may just be the answer you're looking for. Call us 876-506-2785 or email us northgatehigh2012, that is northgatehigh2012@gmail.com. Northgate High School, impact through education.
And Stationery Supplies is a unique and powerfully functioning resource center. We offer educational materials and resources for strong family life. We encourage families to not only learn together, but play together. The Catalyst Bookstore and Stationery Supplies, shop number 44 Ocean Village Shopping Center, Ocho Rios. Telephone 876-974-3710. WhatsApp 876-293-1150. The Catalyst, our resource center with family at heart.
Okay, just want to encourage you, remember and support our sponsors. Without them, events like this would not be possible. Okay, now we'll move on to our other guests and have the police update. And to do the introduction for us is Justice Carol Deans Vezina. Turn over to you, my lady.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who has been in the Jamaica Constabulary Force for over 30 years. She has excelled in both her educational and professional pursuits, holding a Bachelor of Science in Human Resource Management, magna cum laude, and as a participant in the JCF 28th Command course in 2017, she was a top performer. That same year, she received the Ministry of National Security's award for Best Officer. She is certainly someone who believes in community involvement, being a charter member of the Optimist Club, North Portmore, since 1996. She has been in her present post since December 2017. So Justices, please help me to welcome to the St.Mary JP's Roundtable, our very own Commanding Officer of St. Mary Division, Superintendent Bobette Morgan Simpson.
Custos Rotalorum of St. Mary, Justices of the Peace, my fellow colleague. Good evening, pleasant evening to you all. It's my pleasure and a little intimidating to be speaking to such an august group of persons from the parish of St. Mary. I just want to say that my co-speaker, Deputy Superintendent Derek Thompson, recently came to the division. I'm going to ask DSP Thompson to just briefly introduce himself at this point, after which we'll go into the presentation. He'll be doing a part of the, I'll begin the presentation, and then he will be doing the second part that speaks specifically to crime in the parish and how the justices of the peace can do. We're looking at crime control and how the JPs can assist us in crime fighting. That's our topic for the presentation. So I'll be looking initially at the whole matter of crime control, crime in general, crime control, and Deputy Superintendent Thompson will be looking at the role of the JPs and looking at some other areas that it relates to actual policing. Go ahead, DSP Thompson.
Protocol observed. Good evening, all. I am Derek Thompson, Deputy Superintendent of Police, and I am currently the crime officer for the parish of St. Mary. I have 30 years service in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. I had served the parishes of Trelawney, St. Anne, Westmoreland, Anova, St. James, and now in St. Mary. I've served in the capacity as investigating officer since 1996, and I've served in senior position from 2010 in the capacity of divisional detective inspector and crime officer for various divisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DSP Thompson. DSP Thompson recently came to the parish. He took over from Deputy Superintendent Ralston Henry. Just to say that he has hit the ground running, and so far he has been doing very well in the crime fighting process for St. Mary. So this evening's presentation will take this format that is as is projected. We're looking at just a few definitions. We'll look at the broken windows theory, looking at some signs of crime, crime control strategies, operational response, social intervention response. Briefly, the justice system, the roles of justices of the peace in crime control.
Excuse me, Supt. Bobette, yes. Can you go into presentation mode, please?
Presentation mode.
Yeah.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, but it's show bigger if you go into presentation mode.
Oh, you mean full screen? Oh, gotcha. Just
let's go into slideshow and
screen, yeah.
Well, it is quite good as it is. If it,
okay, that's it. That's good.
But we're there now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So just a few definitions. So what is crime, an action or omission which constitute an offense, which is punishable by law? So what is control is just the influence or direct people's behavior or a course of events. And putting them together refers to methods taken to crime in a society. And basically, police work is about controlling crime. So what are a portion of my screen is being blocked by some of the a part of the this screen here. I might have to shift this just a little bit. Anyway, so poverty, what are some of the causes of crime? Poverty is certainly one of them, even though it is not necessarily, doesn't necessarily mean that because you're in poverty means that you have to revert to crime, but it is a factor that leads to crime. Job availability, we see that when idle hands, the devil find work for idle hands. So persons are not working, they have to survive, they have bills to pay, so they decide that they will turn to crime. So that is a part of it. social level of morality.
Just an interjection here, please.
Yes.
Just this morning, we are not seeing all the screen. It was good as it was.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, because a part of I noticed that some of the presenters are blocking a part of the screen. So I might have to go back
to where it was.
It was.
Right, thank you.
So I hope I don't. Okay. You're seeing it better now?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Actually, it was better before, but if it's comfortable others, we go with it.
It was better before for me.
Okay, let me try something here. Let me try pushing dragging the across.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let me drag it across a bit and see if
that's good. That's good. That's good.
Means that I'm gonna have to pause and drag across.
The presenter's box can be reduced by just clicking on the.
It is good as it is. Quite okay though.
Superintendent.
Yes, sir.
I think you should go back to the original that you were, because we can read it clearly. We are hearing you clearly. So
I'm actually at the original now, sir. I'm actually I'm not at full screen now.
Where you're comfortable, because we can read what we are seeing here.
Yes, it is quite okay now.
Yes, that is good.
What I've been doing is just dragging the screen across to ensure that the rest of the screen is. So if you allow me, I can just do that, just drag it across a bit so that all the information is visible to everybody. I hope okay. Okay, so here, is this better now?
Perfect.
Sure.
Yeah, excellent.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, so we were looking at social level of morality, which speaks really to upbringing. So how are we bringing up our children? How are these children, how does the environment that these children are brought up in influence the way they behave, whether they commit crime or otherwise? So it has a very deep effect on how these children operate when they become adults or even before they become adults. So how do you treat them at home? How are they treated at home? What are they told? Are they scolded when they do wrong? Are they punished when they do wrong? And of course, police policies, how we police our spaces can determine whether or not crimes are committed. If we are, as police, if we are enforcing the law the way it is supposed to be enforced, if we are maintaining presence in areas of crime, if we are taking that zero tolerance attitude towards policing. The age of the population. No, it would be very unusual, not that elderly persons doesn't commit crime, but I can speak to my experience when I was at Halfway Tree, where a lot of the older persons that were in the lockup were actually involved in fraudulent activities. But the young persons, they are involved in various types of crime. And these days we know that the most quote unquote popular crime is scamming. And you really don't find older persons involved in scamming, you find the younger persons. So the age of the population will also determine the level of crime in a community, especially if there is lack of opportunities and job non-availability in the community. You'll find that happening. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Okay, so I just briefly want to look at the broken windows theory. I don't know how many persons would have heard about the broken windows theory. It was proposed by these two men, James Q. Wilson and George Killing in 1982. So the broken windows theory of criminology is basically suggests that when you're in a community that is densely populated, like in the urban areas or in a lower income area, then it will encourage criminal activities, and that the policing tactics employed will, and the level of the, not sure, my computer is going ahead of itself. So the tactics that the police employs in terms of enforcement of the law as it relates to like minor crimes, the loitering, the drinking, the, public drinking, graffiti on the wall. We might not see that in a St. Mary, but it happens other places. If you go in the corporate area, you will see it. And this theory would have been proven in territories to be beneficial to crime fighting, but it was also criticized, as it is believed that it encouraged discriminatory police practices. And in a place like the United States, where there is a whole matter of racial inequality, then the perceived racial inequality or racial profiling, then it was, although used successfully, it was criticized. So the proposal is that the theory suggests that if a pane of glass, so you live in a community and there's a building there and the window is broken. If this pane of glass is replaced, then it is believed that the owner is present. Somebody lives there. Somebody cares about the property. Somebody cares about what is taking place to the property. And so if you care about your property, then you're not going to allow it to go into disrepair. So you're going to fix it. But if the window remains broken, so the house is there, the window break, another window break, nothing happens, it means that that property has no owner. It is an invitation to break the other windows, to commit more crimes. And this house might very well be vandalized based on the fact that nobody is paying attention to it. So, causal chain to a broken community. So, what exactly? It's what sequence of events leads to or can lead to a community being broken? So disorder caused by disreputable persons. So we have persons in the community that are just hell-bent on causing problems in the community. So they will do things even though it might look as if it is not that bad, but it will lead to, okay. I removed my mouse because my mouse is running away. So disorder caused by disreputable persons, breakdown in informal control, invasion of predatory criminals, high crime rates. So informal control basically speaks to what are the informal rules that are in the community? Is it that it is understood? It's not set in law, but it is there that you don't do these things. So there is that And here we could even look at the whole system of the done in some communities. So you have things happening in the community, nothing is being done about it. It is basically being accepted by the community. So you will have the invasion of predatory criminals. And we find in St. Mary that St. Mary can be very accommodating to outsiders. So we find that a number of criminals are coming into our space in St. Mary, and you might not be aware because these things don't necessarily hit the news. But I will invite you to join the JCF Facebook page and to follow the JCF Facebook page where you will get a lot of information as to what's actually coming out of the different communities, the different police stations in St. Mary and other divisions across the parish, where a number of migrant criminals have come into the space and have been captured and sent back to where they would have committed crimes. So, and of course, the high crime rates will come around based on what is happening in the community. So what are some of the signs of crime? Some of these signs of crime. So when we look and we see some of these things happening, young men hanging out smoking ganja. And we see that daily, whether it is morning, whether it is noon, whether it is night. We see the gambling, we see the digging out the palm of their hands. Their ganja has become a way of life. Gambling, hanging around on the corner, not really doing anything, just loitering. Where you see abandoned derelict houses and buildings, these derelict buildings are havens for criminality because they will, and sometimes it's not necessarily derelict buildings, but they're houses that are basically abandoned by their owners, or the owners leave them and there's nobody there, so they just move in. And I can tell you that we have had several cases in St. Mary. In the Tower Isle area, we have had instances where persons have moved into persons' houses because they're not there, and the houses are there. And so they just move in, and it's only when the owners come back from, and a lot of the time they're overseas, when they get back, then they realize that their houses somebody have been living there. And we have also had a case of persons where somebody has been living in the house with the owner, and they didn't even know that somebody was living there. Abuse or sustained use of alcohol. We recognize that alcohol has become a way of life also for persons, and it also leads to criminal activities because when they abuse alcohol, excess use of alcohol, they're not able to control themselves. Unemployment, and not just unemployment. Some of these young men, young women are unemployable in the present state that they're at. They have no education, they have no skill. And so there's very little that they can do. So they're just there. When you see children not going to school, hanging out on the street, and we have had to be, I have told my team to be looking out for the children not going to school, who are just out on the streets in the days. And so we can do some intervention where these children are concerned and get the parents. So when we see all of these things coming together, children having children, we have found that, especially with COVID these days, a lot of children not going to school, and we find that a lot of girls are getting pregnant. A lot of it is not being recorded because they are being kept. They're being kept out of the eyes of the general public, and only when they might go to the hospital, then the hospital will call us. The selling of drugs, that is definitely sign of crime, where they're selling the drugs on the corner or wherever. Living the high life with no visible sign of income. So we see the flossing, we see the high life that is being lived by these some of these persons. High-end vehicles, no visible signs of income. Where's the money come from? So the scamming activities, bonds for drugs, these activities all tell a tale. So the whole matter of social control, informal social control, exercised without statute. There's no regulation. There's no law. There's no policy that speaks to how the community is regulated. However, there is that understanding that this is not the way, or this is the way that we operate in the community. So that can determine whether or not you have a good community versus another type of community. Formal social control, talk about statutes, the laws, the policy, the regulations, the rules, the systems. And of course, these are enforced by the court system, the police, different government agencies, and the schools, if it's in the schools. So the whole matter of social control is very important in controlling crime in our spaces, in the country in general. So what are some of the strategies to control crime? Now, in 2018, the Honorable Dr. Horace Young would have put forward a 5-point plan in terms of controlling crime. So these are the policies, public order and law enforcement. So public order, and you would have known, and over the years, since coming to St.Mary, you'd have seen the disorder in the town of Port Maria in terms of public order. Public order is very, very critical to crime control, because when you have disorder, then all kind of things will happen. You'll have fights, you'll have the selling of, you'll have the drug, you'll have different things. And so the enforcement, the police involvement in public order, very, very critical. We spoke also about anti-gang strategies, and whilst we only have one reputed hotspot community in St.Mary, which happens to be an Otter Bay, which has 2 gangs that are active, active in the space. The various anti-gang strategies that are in place would enforce and to assist in crime control. Anti-corruption strategies. Some people that just believe that corruption is just about beating the system, but depends on what kind of system you're beating. So you might say that, you go to the tax office and you give somebody money and they do something to help you to get a driver's license. It is corruption. And if, as justices of the peace, as Custos would have said earlier on, if you assist in any way to help people to do these things, then you will also become culpable to being investigated and possibly charged, and you lose your status and everything. So the anti-corruption strategies with no tolerance to corruption. Targeted social intervention initiatives in volatile communities. And we speak some more about the whole social intervention as it relates to policing and crime control. And he spoke about the transforming of the police force. And in transforming of the police force, he looked at the computerizing of the police force in terms of having the stations having diaries that are not, if you come to the police station, then you would notice how big the diaries are. So it will be online. So everything would be done on the computer. So computerized diaries being introduced, additional vehicles, and we have been getting vehicles in recent times. COVID would have disrupted the number of vehicles that we have gotten, that we were slated to get, but hopefully things will come back to normal. We also looked at improving the police stations, and you would have seen some improvement being done to police stations all over. So these were national crime control measures. So strategies comes from in different ways. Crime control strategies come in different ways. So we can look at the operational responses. So zero tolerance to minor crimes. So whether it is offensive weapon, whether it is cursing, using indecent language, if it is disorderly conduct, whatever it is that happens, then the police take action, you're arrested, you go to court, the court takes its place. Smoking in public, even though it might look minor, but it is still an offense. And whilst smoking ganja is not considered criminal, smoking in a public place is an offense. Illegal vending, that is also one of those that we have no tolerance for. And you would have seen what Port Maria town looks like these days as against what it was before. Targeted raids, that's also one of the measures as an operational response, where we, based on information received, then we will target places, persons, make our arrests, and make the law take its course. Target hardening, and what is target hardening? Target hardening is about making it harder for crimes to be committed. So something is happening, and I could say that it is really, when something is going on in our community, so we hear about a particular community where there is a dispute going on, and this dispute can lead to greater, it might be over land, it might be over a minor thing, but it will lead to greater crimes. So we will go in and we will talk, we will occupy the space, and we will ensure that they're not given the opportunity. I really don't know why this screen just keeps shifting, because I'm not, that's why I'm not using the mouse. So it also means that, for instance, we might get information that somebody is in danger. And this person who is in danger, we will go to that person, we will talk to you. Do not go to certain places, do not do certain things, keep away from certain things, so as to ensure that you are safe. So it's about targeting a person or an area that prevents crime or offenses being committed against the person in the particular space, or certain events happening in the area, like shootings and so on. So we talk about people checkpoints. It's really just basically stopping on persons and searching for offense, whether offensive weapon, or it is something that there is provision for, and we do that. Persons take offense to it, but it is something that we have the right to do. Snap raids, those are basically when not planned, but the police is out there, something is going on, you go to a location, whether it's a stall in the market or it's a house, it's a business place, go in with a warrant or without a warrant, not necessarily without a warrant, without a warrant, and go in and do in a professional manner, carry out a search and make arrests if there needs to be an arrest. Stop and searches, stop the vehicle on the road or the person's search. Vehicle checkpoints, VCPs, these are done by not less than the rank of a sergeant and with a particular number of persons. And we see them on the road from time to time where vehicles are stopped and vehicles are checked, tickets issued where necessary, firearm booklets checked, and so on. And meaningful patrols in the sense that when a patrol goes out there, it doesn't just go out there and just drive up and down with the AC on and just looking on the phone. That is not a meaningful patrol. A patrol goes out there, stops in the community, talks to the people. They will do a little snap raid here and there. They will do a spot check here and there. They will move on to another area, do the same thing, respond to the disputes. If there's a dispute that is going on that they know about, go and check on these persons to find out what is going on. Do target hardening. Those are just some of the things that involve meaningful patrols. And if those things are not happening, then it means that the patrols are not meaningful. So the presence of the patrol in the area. And there was a question earlier on about the blue light. The blue light is deemed to be for reassurance. So when you see the blue light, the police is in the space. But unfortunately, most persons see it as a bother. But that's not what it's supposed to be. You'd be surprised. You see, this is St.Mary. But when you go in the corporate area, you wouldn't understand how happy persons are to see the police in their community with the blue lights. So it means that the police is present and it is meant to be for reassurance, not for bother, not for a bother. Okay? So at the national level, the intervention is more about the government will have introduced the state of emergency on several occasions from a constitutional standpoint in terms of curbing crime. On the other hand, the zones of special operation is more an initiative by the government in terms of suppressing crime, controlling crime in a particular community. So there's the whole matter of clear, hold, and build, which are the three main pillars. So clear, meaning that the police moves in and gets the criminals out. The police move in, get the criminal out, occupy the space. So clear out the criminals, hold the space. So remain in the space and then build. So after the police clears out the criminals, hold the space, then the different agencies will come in. So you have SDC, you have RGD, you have the tax place, you have all the different government agencies and non-government agencies that will move in and they will assist persons. You have persons who don't have birth certificate, they will get their birth certificate, and they will do different activities to help to build that community, which after they have rid them of the criminals. And of course, there's also the matter of housing at a bigger level where they might be able to assist with housing for some persons, and generally to assist the members of the community in more ways than one. Proactive policing, not waiting until something happens. So there might be a rumbling going on. So we don't wait until something happens before we go in. We go in before something happens. It could be a dispute. And we know that this dispute could lead further. So we jump in and we intervene. So we get involved before the matter gets worse. So that's the whole proactive intervention system where we move in right across in terms of ensuring that things get better instead of getting worse. Our community meetings are meant to be crime control strategies. We need to talk to you, you need to talk to us. We need to have meaningful conversations. We need to have our neighborhood watch groups being active and out there partnering with us. We need to have those meetings. COVID would have disrupted some of these programs. The police youth clubs are also the building of police youth clubs also help to control crime. When we get these youth into a meaningful organization where they can meet with each other, they can learn a skill, we put them into the frame of mind where we try to help them to whether to get into heart or to get into other kind of programs that will help them to get a skill. And I can say that I'm a product of the Police Youth Club, Williamsville Police Youth Club in Manchester. I was a member of that club, and from there, it helped me to join the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So I can speak from a personal standpoint where the Police Youth Club is very good, very, very good. It's a very good organization to encourage the youngsters to join. Job creation, from a government standpoint and from a private sector standpoint. When we have development in our communities, then we create jobs for the community. Skills training speaks for itself. The Safe School program is one that we utilize to talk to and to reach some of these youngsters in the schools that are creating mayhem in the schools. And we have so many of those because schools are out now. It's not so prevalent now, but it is a very important one as well. So at this point, I am going to hand over to DSP Thompson, where he will take over the presentation from here. And if he needs me to intervene at any point, then I am here. So DSP Thompson, I think I'm gonna be guiding the screen for you. So you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Commander. Before I speak to the aspect of how the JP can assist in the whole aspect of administration of justice, I would just like to share with the persons on the platform the crime stats for St. Mary. To date, we have experienced 20 serious and violent crime. And when I speak of serious and violent crime, I'm speaking about murders, shooting, robberies, rape, breaking, aggravated assault, which is serious wounding, and cases where persons suffer broken limbs, etc., burned with acid. Larceny, cases where the value is in excess of $250,000. To date, we have 20 of those serious and violent crime committed, in contrast with 10 for the corresponding period last year. Thus far, we're seeing the commission of one murder. That murder was committed in Top Road, Jeffreytown in Gale, and that murder has been cleared. The perpetrator was caught and arrested. For the corresponding period, we had 2 murders for 2020. So far, we're seeing 3 shootings, and for the corresponding period, we had 1 shooting. We're seeing 5 robberies. For the corresponding period last year, we had 2. We have no reports of rape to date, but for the corresponding period last year, we had 3 cases. We currently have 6 cases of break-in. For the corresponding period last year, we had 1. Aggravated assault, we are seeing 3 cases. And for the corresponding period last year, we had 1. Simple larceny, we're seeing 2 cases for 2021. For the corresponding period last year, we had 0. And so, although we have an increase in 10, what we are seeing the increase in is the acquisitory crime, the break-in and the robberies. And the increase is not concentrated in any particular area. It's a wide cross-section. So it's not something that we can say is organized crime. It's spontaneous crimes. We are getting some information and we're hoping that in short order, we'll be able to arrest some of the perpetrators for the commission of the break-in and the robberies. In terms of the shooting, the 3 shootings, 2 of the shootings have been cleared thus far, and we're making significant progress in the clearing of the 3rd one. I'll go to the aspect of how the justice of the peace can assist in the whole administration of justice. The justice of the peace is very integral in the day-to-day operation of police services. And I am going to use this opportunity to implore all JPs to be cognizant of the service that they have to offer and assist us a little more in the execution of our duties. The execution of policing services cannot be done effectively without the assistance of the justices of the peace. And I look at the recording of caution statements and question and answer. When a suspect come into custody, that suspect is entitled to have his or her attorney. If for any reason the person does not have an attorney of his or her choice, then it is incumbent on the state to provide what is known as a duty counsel or legal aid for that person. Sometimes the legal aid are not forthcoming. The police will call and those persons are engaged otherwise in their lawful practice and are unable to attend. In those instances, it is very important for the justice of the peace to assist. It is necessary when the attorneys are not able to assist that the police have at least two justices of the peace available to assist in the process. That is to witness the statements so that it can stand up to scrutiny in terms of the integrity of such independence in court. Most times, a suspect is held by the police, sometime in the wee hours, maybe 11 o'clock, 1 a.m. The person is willing to confess, to say, I did the crime, or I was a part of the crime, and no attorney is available. When you call some justice of the peace in the night, there's little or no assistance in most instances. And what this does, it provide a negative feedback for the investigation. Because most time, by daybreak, that suspect change his or her mind from giving that statement, and you lose the opportunity of getting somebody who is guilty of an offense coming forward to say that I have committed the crime. And so I'm just asking the Justice of the Peace to be cognizant of this and just offer a little more assistance to us when we call for the assistance. Also, the Committal Proceedings Act, it is mandatory that when statements are being recorded for cases like murder, wounding with intent, rape, and other serious and violent crime, that it is done in the presence of a justice of the peace or at least the rank of a sergeant of police. In some instances, there's not a sergeant available. Sometimes it's only a corporal, and the assistance of the justice of the peace is quite relevant in those circumstances to have the statement recorded. In the past, it wasn't like this. It was the preliminary inquiry at first, and where no statement would have to be taken in the presence of a JP or a sergeant, and then the matter would go to circuit once the preliminary inquiry is held. Now it is different. Once the statement is recorded, the preliminary inquiry is abolished, and those statements are tendered in what is known as a committal hearing at court, and it goes straight to the circuit once they pass the threshold of what the statement is supposed to be. Identification parades, it is very important for justices of the peace to assist in this regard. Not in all cases, justice will be required to attend, but in circumstances whereby a suspect or suspects refuse to attend an identification parade, the police will have to do what is known as a confrontation. So the police will have to take the witness to the cell block for the witness to look and see if the suspect is among the group of persons in custody. When that is done, it requires at least two justices of the peace to be present for the whole identification to be transparent and able to stand up to scrutiny in court. The disposal of perishable goods. Items such as oranges and other perishable items, meat. Sometimes persons steal these items. And when the police conduct inquiries and recover these items, it is needed as exhibit.
Missy, happy birthday to you.
It is very important for those perishable goods to be brought as exhibit. But because they are perishable, what the law says that the investigating officer can take the items to a justice of the peace who will inspect the items and verify that the quantity is what is said to be the quantity, and a record is kept of these perishable items. Under that circumstance, the perishable items will be returned to the owner, and at a later date, the form which the justice of the peace complete will be tendered in court as evidence, and that justice of the peace will be able to go to court and say, yes, on X day I was present when Corporal so and so took 8 oranges that was allegedly stolen by so and so from Miss Matty's farm, and I inspected them, and there were in fact 8 oranges, and it was handed over to the owner. So those are services that has to be provided by the JP, and is very, very important to investigations. Also, remanding of suspects. In a lot of instances, even with the emergency pause regulation, it is very important when the police arrest someone that if the person is not going to be bailed, they can take the person to a justice of the peace once the person is not required for identification period. In instances where the person is required for an identification period, the person will not be taken, but the representation will be made to the justice to have the person remanded. Justice of the peace are empowered to remand such persons at least for 24 hours. And so the police from time to time will be, seeking the services of justices of the peace, even in the wee hours, for these remands to be done. And we're just asking for a little tolerance in this regard. Social intervention. A lot of times we have conflicts in the community which doesn't reach the ear of the police as yet, but the JP who is in the community is pretty aware of some of the dispute. And so we are expecting that as justices of the peace, they will take a firm approach and assist in preventing the commission of murder or other serious crimes. You don't have to wait until when somebody makes a report at the station. Once you're aware in the community that some form of conflict is taking place, then we're expecting that you will intervene and assist in quelling situation before it gets very hostile. Also, we ask that the justice of the peace be lobbies on behalf of the police. A lot of times, policing services are divided of a lot of things, sometimes lack of service vehicle and other very important things that the police needs to provide the service that is required. And so we're asking sometimes that you can be on lookout for the police, and where the deficiencies arise, you can make representation to the powers that be to say that I am a justice of the peace. I am living in, for example, Gale, and I've observed that the police service vehicle is not operating effectively. It appears as if it is in disrepair, and we're asking that a service vehicle or other, not necessarily a service vehicle or other things be provided for the police for them to do their work effectively. There are other things that the JPs are very much needed for the assistance in terms of our service, but time is far spent, and I'll just stop at that for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, DSP and Superintendent Morgan Simpson. It was truly a great deal of information that was shared, and I think all the justices right now are soaking in all of that information and looking at how best, you know, we can use that information shared in assisting you, the police, in your day-to-day activities. At this point in time, we'll accept 2 questions. We're a bit over time, but we'll see how we can accommodate those and then move on with the program.
Chairman,
Okay.
we'd like
Justice Vassal, he said, with regards to the second question posted to the Custos regarding the overcrowding of the stipulated number of persons, you know, in various communities, can we get an update on a plan, if possible, to address this issue?
Okay, I actually wrote down some of the questions that were asked of the Custos and had intention of addressing them, which included that one. Let me say this. Until the government.
Yeah.
Okay, are you hearing me now?
You are
Yes,
muted. We can hear you
yeah, I
now.
realize that now. No, I was saying that I would have written down some of the questions that were asked of the Custos, and I would answer that question. Mr. Thompson, turn on your video. Somebody wants to know what you look like. So just want to say that until the government makes it mandatory for some things, then it is going to be extremely difficult for the police to curb some of the actions of these persons. Where the funerals, the grave diggings are concerned, I can give you a very real example which took place over the weekend. So a policeman who was very popular in his community, works in St. Mary, born, grew up, work in St. Mary. He died, he was buried on Saturday. We spoke to the family over and over in terms of the protocol and the need to control the crowd and the whole thing. We control it at the church because the church has a gate. Now, Whitehall Cemetery does not have a gate. There were few persons at the church, but when we got to Whitehall Cemetery for the burial, then all the persons from the community were at the cemetery.
Which police buried Saturday?
Sergeant Willis, San Salvador Willis. He was in charge of the Prida Last Name unit.
Okay.
Now, moral suasion does not work. You might find some compliance on moral suasion. The fact is, if you're not wearing a mask, if you are out on the curfew hours, then the law posits that we talk to the person. Warn the person, put on your mask, put on your, leave the road, turn off the music. If they comply, we cannot make an arrest. Now, when we had over 30 odd police at the cemetery on Saturday, but we had, I can safely say, hundreds of persons. There's always the matter of risk assessment that has to be done. So we try our best to be proactive because we have the illegal parties that are taking place. When we hear about them, we warn before. So the government has to take a stance as to how laws are put in place to treat with some of these things that are happening, because persons are not just complying to the laws as are set out in the Disaster Risk Management Act. So we are trying our best. There was a grave digging on Wednesday, and literally I had to leave my office and go there, and all the persons who did not have on mask, I ordered them to leave the cemetery. Most complied, some went away, got mask, come back, and there were a few who were not so willing. And then, you know, the police had to get a bit hard on them. But the fact is, persons are not just complying to it. And it's a challenge for us when persons decide that they are out in their numbers. There's no way of curtailing the crowd when persons leave, even though we had police at the location, but they were grossly outnumbered. Somebody had asked about the COVID numbers. Let me give you 2 COVID numbers for police headquarters. That's at Commissioner's office. You can write these down, and we know the 876. It's 702-5103, 702-5106, and the number for the Commissioner's office line is 927-4421, and it should go up to 4. Okay, and there was also a question about the time that JPs can bail. JPs can bail at any time of the day or night. However, I think it is in the best interest of the justice to, in terms of security purposes, to do so at a time, unless it is really desperate. It's probably a family member or something. But if it is too late, it's not necessarily in your best interest to be out that late just to bail somebody, unless it is a family member or somebody very close that you need to. But there's really no time frame during which bail can take place. And there was another question about JPs coming to the station, and I think Custos would have looked at that one. But I also want to say to the justices that you being a justice of the peace does not put you above the law, does not give you the right to. Okay, so we have justices that may have children who are not necessarily the best behaved. So because you're a justice of the peace and your child commits himself does not make it okay. He's my child, I'm a justice of the peace, and he's my child. So there's a warrant out for the child of a justice of the peace. I would think it is incumbent on that justice of the peace, once it comes to his or her attention, to take in that child. Sometimes it's traffic offense. Take in that child. We are always willing to make particular arrangements with the court for the person to come in, be there to have somebody to bail the person if it's a case where they need to be bailed, or if it is fines to be paid, to pay the fine so that the matter can be dealt with. But do not expect to be treated differently in a case where something is wrong, the law is broken, and you're there to say, it is my child and because my child. Yes, there might be a little bit of tempering of the situation, but don't come huffing and puffing and expect that the police is going to just back off because you are justice of the peace. And I hope I am in that. We treat our justices of the peace well, but there are times when some of the justices just go a little bit overboard. That's it for me.
Thank you, Superintendent. One of the things, and I'm happy you brought it up, is that is for the justices to temper their behavior. In situations it might get heated, but always remember your position dictates that you should act in a particular way. So try and temper yourself in every action, in every day. We have a question from Justice Travis, I believe it's Travis Drummond. How do we report or deal with abandoned buildings that can be potential safe havens for criminals to hide out?
I think that is one for the municipal corporation, because they can access information from the tax office. So they can always identify the building. If the building is reported to them, they can identify the building, find out if it has an owner. If they can locate the owner, they can track it to the title's office and get information as to who owns the building, so that they can either be told either demolish the building, or if it is a haven for criminals, then they can go ahead and demolish the building, and if they need security from the police to do so, then we'll assist in that regard.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, there being no other, just a second, I believe a question just came in. Okay, no, that's it for questions. All right, thank you, Superintendent Simpson and Deputy Superintendent Thompson, for taking your time out. I know it's a bit late, but thanks for being here and sharing with us and answering questions. All right, at this point in time, we'll have another of our sponsorship ads, after which we'll have the summary and the vote of thanks. But I just want to share that Justice Boynes, we all miss his presentation this evening. Justice, based on the time overrun, Justice Boynes will be emailing out his report in regards to the St.Mary JP Community Outreach and Empowerment Initiatives update. So you can look out for that. Persons who have registered their interest, a link will be sent out for your volunteer registration forms. And thus far, we have had over 50 justices of the peace volunteering or in expressing interest, which he has said he's very, very happy about seeing. So those of you who can and want to volunteer, please do so. And now, our sponsorship ad from the Catalyst Bookstore and Northgate High School.
The Catalyst Bookstore and Stationery Supplies is a unique and powerfully functioning resource center. We offer educational materials and resources for a strong family life. We encourage our families to not only learn together, but play together. The Catalyst strongly believes in community development, and so we interface with schools and institutions promoting mental, social, and spiritual health. The Catalyst Bookstore and Stationery Supplies, shop number 44, Ocean Village Shopping Center, Ocho Rios, telephone 876-974-3710 or WhatsApp 876-293-1150. The Catalyst, a resource center with family at heart. You have children 10 to 14 years old? Are you looking for an online school option that offers live video interaction between students and the teacher? Are you looking for a safe environment to help build character in your child? Then contact us at Northgate High School. We engage a values-based approach to education while delivering academic and life skills training. Parents of homeschooled children and those with children who are temporarily without a school option for this term, contact us. We may just be the answer you're looking for. Call us 876-506-2785 or email us northgatehigh2012, that is northgatehigh2012@gmail.com. Northgate High School, impact through education.
Okay, now just a quick update. DSP Thompson, he's currently driving, and based on the internet service, he's not able to put up his turn on his camera. So, but I'm quite sure this is not the last time that we'll be having to interact with the superintendent or the DSP. So hopefully on the next occasion, we can have him where he can turn on his camera, similar to how we have seen Superintendent Morgan Simpson. At this point in time, I'd like to turn over to Justice Tracy Keene for the summary and the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks to Dr. Tamara Henry, CMO of St. Mary, Bobette Morgan Simpson, Superintendent of Police, DSP Derek Thompson, and Custos Rotolorium Errol V. Johnson. I would like to thank them all who honored this function with their thoughts and for sharing all those information, for making this roundtable talk a success. Once again, I thank you and all that present here. Also, I want to thank the sponsors, the Catalyst Bookstore and Northgate High School. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Justice Keene. Okay, just in closing, thanks for everyone coming out today, tonight, and being a part of this second of our roundtables for the year. Your presence and your input is always appreciated. I can tell you that it's good for me here seeing some of you with your cameras on, so I can actually put faces to names. And I encourage, when possible, turn on those cameras so that we can see who it is that we're dealing with here. We're a part of one family, one team. At this point, though, I'll ask everyone, please, to stand as we'll have the national anthem. So please stand, everyone. Okay,
Good night, everyone. Please remain safe, healthy, and happy. God bless you all.
Okay, everyone. I'll move for the adjournment of the meeting, but we still have Superintendent Morgan on. I believe Dr. Henry had to leave, but we can stay on and socialize a bit. I'm sure Justice Boynes won't kick us out of the breakout room just yet if we want to stay in and talk a little.
Good evening, Mr. Lecky. I'm still here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Hey, hi, Doc. All right. So anybody with questions for Dr. Henry, please,
Yes.
you have time now.
Yes, quick question. I'm thankful she's still there. It was stated shortly after the vaccines came out, Dr. Henry, that persons with existing severe allergic responses should possibly not take the vaccine. Is that still so?
So that severe allergic reaction to previous vaccination?
No,
it depends on what
possibly.
you're allergic to.
Well, they had mentioned even persons who were allergic to things like food allergies or had food allergies or maybe bees.
No, that don't know. It wouldn't count in it because the vaccine that we're utilizing, it's actually an adenovirus coat. So it has nothing to do with, it doesn't have a lot of very, very few additives. So it would not count. A food allergy would not preclude someone from being vaccinated.
Okay.
If you have other previous vaccinations and you have severe reaction to them, then those are the persons that are advised. And once you give that alert to your healthcare provider, then they know how to advise you further.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Henry.
Yes, Mr. Brian.
Which country? Where is that vaccine coming from? Which country? Who are the makers?
The United Kingdom. It's coming from the United Kingdom.
Okay.
And this vaccine is very sturdy. It can be stored at the temperature that we normally utilize for vaccination between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So it's one of the best options for our country at this time.
What's the name you said? What's the name of the vaccine?
It's an AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. AstraZeneca.
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 ZENECA.
Yes.
AstraZeneca. Okay.
AstraZeneca.
So that's
Good night, Dr. Tamara.
company name. Yeah. Yes.
Paul Williams.
Hello. Good
good night.
evening. Good night,
Paul
Mr.
Williams.
Williams.
I made a sent here from the Portman United Church. I don't know if you saw it.
I did, and we did respond. We have asked one of our officers to be there. I did respond.
All right, thanks, Doc. Thanks very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Williams. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks.
Doc, could you explain a little bit more about the virus? Because there are persons who think that the virus, sorry, not the virus, but the vaccine has a virus in it. But based on my understanding, this vaccine does not have any part of the virus.
All right. So what the vaccine is actually based on the ability of the cells to produce the code proteins. As I said, the double-stranded DNA is actually encapsulated in an adenovirus shell. Now, the adenovirus shell that they have utilized for this vaccine cannot replicate in the body. So once it enters, it will be destroyed. It will not replicate. And this virus is actually something that we normally get the common cold and the common flu from, but it is not going to replicate in the body. What it actually is doing is taking in the DNA into the cell so it can produce the mRNA, making those proteins for our body to recognize and develop that immunity. So it's not going to replicate in the body. It cannot, based on the nature of it.
That's done.
Somebody's asking if the virus can be reconstructed.
Good evening.
Well, we have had reports globally of persons being re-diagnosed with COVID-19. And as you're aware, there are variants to the disease. So yes, persons have been known to be reinfected with COVID-19.
Even if they are vaccinated?
Remember, I would not be able at this point to speak to if you can be reinfected after vaccination. Remember, it's a very, very new disease. The vaccine itself is also new, right? It does prevent you or decrease the risk of you getting severe infections, that it does do. But to say that it's going to prevent you from being infected, I could not say that at this point. It does reduce the risk of you getting a severe illness. But to say to prevent reinfection, that is not something that I would be able to definitively speak on at this time. Remember, we still need a lot more time to see what will happen post vaccinations.
Good evening, Dr. Henry. Name is Marvin Gill. I have a question.
Good evening, Mr. Gale.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm hearing
Yeah,
you. Good evening, sir.
Yes, when I look at I listen to the news to the vaccine in the US like on other one, they say someone on 94% effective and all that. The vaccine you're talking about, how much percent we're looking at for this one?
So the vaccine that we're getting is actually up to
Are you understand the
70%.
question? Or?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Hello?
I'm hearing you. Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead, doctor.
Okay, yes. So the vaccine that we're getting is actually just at about 70% efficacious. And remember, as we said, no vaccine is a magic bullet. So it is not here to cure all and prevent COVID. It's just meant as an adjunct to also what we are expected to do until the country, the globe can get over to a point where we can say COVID-19 is something that we can live with, and it is not detrimental or so deadly as we know it before. Because as we are indicating, this does reduce the severity of illness and reduce sometimes the length and duration of the course. All right, so that is what we know currently about the efficacy of this vaccine.
Next question. I have another question, doctor. A follow-up question. Knowing that I mean 70%, you know, I mean, when you look at the one in the US and they have 94%, I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm not in the medical field, but I'm just wondering why our country and why don't try to get the one that's 94%. That's somewhat better than 70% compared to the one the US getting. I mean, is it hard to get or what's happening? Could you try to get that one
Let
for
me
us? I mean, as a people, I mean, 94% is better than 70%.
Yes, Mr. Gill, I'm hearing you. So let me just hasten to say that remember that we are not going to just be getting one vaccine. This is the beginning. What the country wants to do is to quickly immunize persons that we can get, because the death rate, as you're aware, and the cases are actually rising very fast. And this is the vaccine that we could get at the earliest and at this point. Maybe a month down the line, because as you were listening initially, the vaccine that we were initially slated to get vaccines in April, not February, right? We're going to get the Moderna vaccine. Right now, we're getting AstraZeneca. So down the line, that may still be in the pipeline that we're going to get other vaccines, right? So it's not to say that when we get AstraZeneca at this point, we're only going to get AstraZeneca. No, this is something that they want to do to ensure that the frontline workers, the elderly, stay as well as possible, right? And I can understand the indication of the efficacy, but this is not the only vaccine that the country is slated to get. This is what we can get at this point. And as I also said, some of those other vaccines that are out there are kept at minus degrees that we cannot tolerate in country, that we do not have the wherewithal to keep vaccines at those temperatures, right? So because they're not very, very stable. So over time, they're building the capacity to be able to do that. But right now, as it stands, we can tolerate the vaccine that can be stored at 2 to 8 because that's what we are used to. So over time, as the capacity is built, and as I said, that was meant for April, those are down the line. But right now, they're trying to build the country to a point where the number of cases, the severity of cases, and the deaths do not surpass our gains.
Dr. Tamara, what about the ones from Cuba, Dr. Tamara?
Okay, right now, there are a number of vaccines that are still on the slate. So we have to await, because remember that our country, we don't just make a decision by ourselves. We have to go through the Pan American Health Organization, the World Health Organization, and once those vaccines are at a point that they deem them safe, then they will be given the clearance for emergency use. So we have to wait on that.
Good night, doctor.
Good night, sir.
How are you?
I'm okay.
I don't want to. Nice, very good to know. I don't want to make it seem that I'm a bit, let me say I'm a bit lost. Hearing you said a while ago, this vaccination that's come out, this 70%, you made mention of a 70%. And somewhere other again, there's a mention of a 90%.
There are two different vaccines. Somebody asked a question, right?
Good. So okay, yes, I heard, thank you very much. But just for clarification, that you're saying that we're gonna take the 70% and also take the 90%?
What I'm saying is at this point, the only the vaccine that is available to the country now is the AstraZeneca vaccine. Initially, as you follow the news, you would have heard that we were slated to get the Moderna vaccine in April. As you can see right now, our cases are skyrocketing, our death rates are increasing. So the vaccine that is available to us right now is the AstraZeneca vaccine. As I said, the aim of any vaccination program is to maintain or to return us to near normalcy as possible and to ensure that our health workforce is not crippled to the point where we cannot take care of the general population. So the vaccine currently available to us right now is only AstraZeneca.
Okay.
Right.
Dr. Henry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, Justice Irons, you finished?
Yes, sir. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to sound like the devil's advocate, but I have a text on my phone right now from somebody who went to a church service.
Sure.
And the pastor preached that the vaccine is part of an initiative of the Antichrist. What do you have to say to such churches and pastors who believe that the vaccine is some Antichrist thing?
Well, what I would say, Mr. Barnes, is that as far as it's possible, we go with the scientific evidence and the background. And persons do have their own views, and we cannot, take it away from them. But as far as we know, the vaccine has been helping other populations, and it is anticipated it will help Jamaica. So I would not be able to speak. He's speaking from another perspective. I would not be able to add credence to that, because that is not the reality that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
What about children and this vaccine?
Well, the vaccine is approved for use in persons 18 years old and above. As you are aware, once it is that trials would have started with any drug, they normally do not start trials first in children. The trials that were done were actually done in adults. And so they've approved it for use in adults because that's the age group that they have done the trials in, not children. So at this point, they're not vaccinating children, but as the process matures and moves forward, then the children will eventually too be vaccinated. But also bear in mind that what we have seen across the globe is that to a large extent, children are not as affected as adults. And even if they do get affected, they have a milder course. And so our first priority now is the adults who are sicker and the ones that are dying and the ones that the vaccine was tested in.
Somebody's asking if vaccine will be mandatory for tourism workers.
Well, at this point, the vaccine is not mandatory for any group of individuals, frontline or otherwise. Persons are encouraged to take the vaccine, but it is not mandated.
Just a follow-up to that one, Dr. Henry. I was having a discussion because the number of persons who I interact with daily are skeptical of the vaccine. And I was explaining to them that, in order to go to school, you have to do something. You have to measles, mumps, rubella, polio, etc. You know, to travel to certain countries, you have to have yellow fever vaccine, stuff like that. And you know, if it is that this virus is really as deadly as it is, it should be something that we're looking at making mandatory, based on the importance of it in protecting our population and reducing some of the headache and stress on you, the doctors and nurses.
At this point,
colleagues, colleagues, Mr. Chairman, I am suggesting at this point that we be kind to Dr. Tamara, because when she joined us, she was on her way home. I'm not sure that she has reached home as yet. And she has a full day. What we'll try to do is to have her on another forum so that some of our questions can be answered. But we must be considerate because she has been on the road all day and it's now close to 9 to 10 o'clock. So once again, we thank her and we'll try to get her here with us to answer. We might call an emergency meeting and have her talking to us if we deem it necessary.
Thank you very much, Custos Johnson. Really appreciate that.
And thank you very much, Dr. Tamara. Thank you, Dr. Tamara. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Night. Good night.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank
Good
you.
night,
So,
Justice.
thank you, Custos.
Good night, man. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, good night, everyone.
Studies that are beginning to be done, maybe the university as well, about the impact of former military, former police officers on